remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated.
Just talked about, but I was just saying to Neil, I'm really curious knowing your background from, almost 20 years ago when we met to now and the journey and the evolution of your industry. I'm curious about, like, I know previously your revenue model was all about traffic. Like back in the day when you were a blogger, it was all about generating traffic. And then the revenue model was like ad spend, because the ads were very different back then to what they are now. And back then you didn't have social media. So I'm curious, I was just saying, I wonder what your revenue model is now. Like if you're still building websites and I know the two industries, I won't say them for the sake of the recording, but I know the two industries that you said that you were in previously where your two primary sites were. And I was just really curious to understand, is the revenue model still the same, as in on your own sites, do you make money off of the traffic and the advertising, or has it had to move to an actual product model where now you need to sell a product, whether it's an info product, a physical product, a third-party product, whether you're promoting a product, because the marketing and the flow has changed so much. Do you know what I mean? What you're doing.
So, okay, so I always explain it this way: is there's 4 online business models, and I have done all of them, right? So the first one is the e-commerce approach, selling an actual product online. I don't do that because it's way too much work, and there's too much learning curve and yada yada, and there's too much customer service and all that. Then you've got the agency model, which is like doing like life coaches, or like having an agency where it's like a lot of you're just capped on scaling there. So I don't ever touch that one. That is the most amount of work, and I always say like stay away from that one. If you want what the life that we have, right? The rich fun life, you don't want to do any kind of agency model. You don't want to be capped when it comes to how many clients you can take on or things like that. Then you've got the influencer model, and then you've got the education model. The influencer model, that is obviously like a blogger, like I've been forever, and the influencers on social media, things like that. I love this one, but it does take a lot of traffic, and it does take, usually people are doing that to get the traffic to do ads or sell, have sponsors, things like that. I don't do the sponsor model because it's a lot of work. People think it's not. It really is a lot to negotiate and to keep up with that and manage it, and have to listen to what they want when it comes to your marketing and all that. So I kind of stay with that, but I do tie it in, that marketing side, with the education model, and that is like creating the courses or creating trainings, creating like an entire offer suite. I focus on that one. I will say this too. You asked about like me back then. I was focused on traffic versus ads. I have, to this day, in my 28 years as an online entrepreneur, I have never done ads. And back in 2013, that's when I crossed 100 million visits to my blogs. I don't even count anymore. After you cross 100 million, you're like, yeah. So after, like, I've always done organic. And back, like you said, there was no social media for the majority of that time. I focused on bringing traffic in from Google search. And now I've already started looking at, okay, I think the future is going to be searching through AI, which Google's trying with their AI. It's just not, it hasn't stepped up enough as everything else yet, right? But I still focus on that now, where I'm looking at like, okay, how is AI going to deliver this better? How's AI going to serve me and bring traffic to me? So I still look at that, and I do utilize social media a lot now, which is the majority of my focus too. And I've brought back more focus on blogging. Those to me are so easy, especially when it's a static way of bringing in traffic versus like something like Instagram, where you constantly have to post, you constantly have to produce, you constantly have to bring something in, right? Um, that one, and it's fine if you delegate it, but it's not something you want to be doing yourself. That's exhausting. But blog posts, I like that because you put it out there, it's there forever, right? You refresh it every year. If it's a pillar content piece, you refresh it and you just use the other posts to bring traffic to those pillars, and you create a system. Then you've got something like YouTube. Brilliant. You put it there, it's there forever, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We hijacked your podcast, Dwayne.
This is an extra.
It's a bonus. So yeah, so I focus on those. I focus on whatever's going to get the most, like whatever's going to move the needle the most without me having to constantly redo, right? And so me too, is like I always focus on what do I not have to repeat every 3 or 4 months. until 3 or 4 months. That's my golden rule because I always needed to have my hands rest for 3 or 4 months or I could start to lose them again. So if it's a strategy that makes me have to work more than once every 3 or 4 months, I don't even look at it. If it's a strategy that I can optimize and I can automate for up to a year, I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to focus on optimizing that and I'm going to focus on delegating that so that I can go ahead and step away from it when it's time. So for me, that's going to be blogging. It's going to be something like Pinterest, YouTube. It's going to be those realms. Now, it's not to say that I won't ever use ads, but and I most certainly will. Just even because I want to try it. I'm just curious. So I just don't see ads as necessary. And I actually had a very early entrepreneur, younger entrepreneur, ask me the other day. She said something about she said she was ready to scale and she knew that she had to do ads if she wanted to do that. And I was like, okay, that's the thing right there. Anytime you say, I know I have to do this, I'm told I have to do this, they say you need to do this. And I've said this before, I always say it's like my rebellious side comes up and I'm like, you're not the boss of me. Like I know if somebody says you need to do something, you should do something. I'm like, no, I don't. I'll find another way. There's always a way to do it the way you want to. So what I told her too was like, if you're in a state, she said it made her nervous that she'd tried it before and that it flopped. And I said, then you weren't ready for it. You don't do it just because somebody says you have to do it. You don't do it because somebody says you need to do it. And if you're not in the era of your business where you feel like that's the next stage or that's the next step for me and it feels comfortable, it doesn't mean it doesn't feel foreign and there's not uncertainty there. But if it feels like, I'm ready to do this and it's going to be crazy and it's cool, but I feel like this is really cool and I'm excited to learn it versus coming in going, oh, they say I have to do this. All right, I'm going to fill this out. And that's why it flopped the first time. She wasn't ready for it, right? It was out of alignment for her. So in that era of her business, especially she's so young and she's so new to online entrepreneurship, like that's why it flopped. But she had the mindset right and she had the alignment right, and she felt like, yes, this is the time for me to do this. It would have been a different experience, and she probably would have been really successful with it, right? So there's all these other options. There's so many options to bring traffic, to bring leads, and to bring sales. Like there's so many options. You never have to do anything you don't want to do. I don't care what anybody says. And if you have that understanding, you have that mindset and that understanding, that core concept, you won't have to struggle through doing things that you don't want to do. And that's like the key to having the business that you love, right? That's a difference. That's a huge difference. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I guess the second part of the question was probably to reframe the question in a better way is how has your process evolved as technology has evolved, in that period of time, certainly since we've known each
Oh,
other.
which time? I am constantly evolving. Like I always talk a lot about the era of your business. Sometimes that's every few weeks, sometimes that's every month, sometimes that's a season, sometimes that's a couple of years. Like there's different ones. So I've had so many businesses. I've had businesses I've literally forgotten about. Like I've created, sometimes I would get bored and be like, oh, I have a few weeks, I'll create something new. And I would create it and be like, this is kind of boring. Or like, I don't really feel the alignment with this. Or like, it's just not a good niche for me. Like it didn't fit. And I would just go sell it or let it go or give it away. So I've had a ton. Like right now I have an art business. I have my coaching business. I have my programs, my Time Rich and the new one that's coming out, that's Rich Fun Life. And then now I'm looking at doing a day trading firm, which I have no clue about day trading. And I have a friend, our dear friend, our mutual friend, Justin Mendenhall, who wants to start a day trading firm. And I was like, I have no clue about that, but that sounds fascinating. And I wanted to learn about some crypto stuff that you've been doing. And so I was like, I don't know, but you know what, the online business, like the concepts, and I know online business, I know online marketing, so I can apply it to that. And at the same time, like he brings the intelligence when it comes to the uh, the crypto side and the day trading side. So it's been like something really interesting. But I have a lot of businesses, right? So I have done all four of the four online business models. Even since we've met, I've done every one of them. Sometimes I've used pieces of those to launch into the next phase of the next era. I've done them all. Right now, when it comes to like the technology, I still, believe it or not, I still do the same things. The same things from when I had my first online business back in 1996, which was selling seeds, like garden seeds, to uh, well, it was like through AOL chat rooms. It was like that early on. It was like during AOL dial-up. Back then, I did the same things that I do today. I would create I created a group, a chat room, and I had in my profile. So I do a lot of position marketing, right? It's just convenience, like it's just there. I don't do a lot of promo. I would just be in there and socialize. This is what I do. I always say I don't network, I socialize. So I would just socialize. I would be in there to help. I'd talk, I'd chat, and I would keep it going you had to keep it going 24 hours or it would close. Hi. So I would keep it going. And then if like when people would just look at my profile to check me out, be like, oh, she knows her stuff. They'd go and look at my profile. They would click the link and they would go buy. I do the same thing today. I socialize, I help, I add value. I have a core system. It's always capture, engage, convert. Always. And it's the same thing I did back then. So today, same thing today. So now instead of like over time it's changed, right? But my first goal on with everybody, every potential client, every sale is to capture them first. So when they come to my Facebook profile, if you just as example, my Facebook profile, it doesn't say go here to buy. It doesn't have a link to my website. It says follow. It says follow for online business wisdom, for 28 years of online business wisdom and money mindset. My goal is to capture them because once I've captured them, I have forever to market and let them see it. So it's the same thing I did back then. It's just having it available for them to know and then to focus on capturing and then presenting it again and again and again and showing up. I'm here to help, to serve. And I just keep it as simple as possible. Now with the technology side now, like social media has made it so much easier, right? But I still like the organic approach, like bringing in traffic from Google, because it's so much easier. It's so much less work, right? So much less energy than doing a lot of social media marketing. I also focus more on networking and socializing because I bring in a ton of referrals. I focus more on internal marketing than I do on external. So I will make more offers for my existing students, clients, customers than I will on external. I'm not always focused on bringing in more, bringing in more, bringing in more. I just present more offers to the ones that I already have. So using technology for that, everything I focus on is still pretty much the same. When it comes to like, I still do some email marketing. I still start it very late. I don't jump to do email marketing right away. I do it usually when I'm already making hundreds of thousands in that business. And then I'm like, oh, I think I'll send out a few emails, which is a lot of counterintuitive to a lot of people. But that is what has worked always. And when it comes to ChatGPT, which we just talked for 3 hours, mostly on AI, but when it comes to AI, like I use that now so much when it comes to this. And then, but everything, most of what I teach and what I talk about and share, it honestly comes down to those core concepts and to mindset. And then it doesn't matter what technology you have, what we put in front of you, because once you understand those core pieces, it doesn't matter what you do, you can get them to work, right? There's so many ways to make money online. So many ways. It's like endless. And it's really more about having an understanding, the building those instincts, like focusing on building your instincts and your skills. Then you can apply it to anything that feels right to you at that time, and it will work.
Jeni, earlier you had made a comment. You said there's so many options. Like you were like, there's so many options. There's just so many options.
Yeah.
But not everybody sees that. And my question is, what are the questions that you ask yourself in that time where maybe you don't see as many options or you're looking for more options? What are the common 1, 2, 3 questions, whatever it is, that you ask yourselves
I ask if it's going to serve. I ask if I want to do it, right? And I ask how much work is it going to be. I always ask that question, like how much work is it going to be? And I also look at the risk. And I don't mean risk of losing money, because I'm never worried about losing money. If I go into a business, I know I can make money with it. But I do look at um, the risk of unhappy people. So like looking into doing the day trading firm, like I look at that and be like, okay, is there a potential here for lawsuits or for unhappy individuals who think this is kind of scammy or like anything like that? I'll look at things like that, especially if it's foreign to me, right? And I'll weigh that out because that's the most amount of like work and energy and stress. And I want to avoid that like the plague. So I look at those things and I really weigh it and say like, okay, is this something that I could really automate? Is this something that I can step away from? Is this something that's going to like add to my life versus take from it? I look at those things. And when it comes down to it, I honestly just go and I really ask myself, do I really want to do this? If there's any hesitation, if I really want to do this, then I don't do it. If there's anything that feels like this is going to be a lot of responsibility, I don't do it.
So Jeni, is the answer to my initial question, is it that your revenue generation from whatever business it is that you're doing is resulting in a product sale, whether that product be physical in the sense of garden seeds, like you spoke about, or whether it's an info product, or whether it's a coaching product, or given the givens, what you said of what you like to avoid?
For mine personally,
Yeah.
so for mine personally, I focus on educational content. Like I do trainings mostly, but it's different for different businesses, right? So like the day trading firm, that's an agency really. It's technically it's a software platform, right, where they can go in and trade. But it's different ones. I don't stick to just one. Then I have an art business that actually has technically it's a physical product because they get Jacqueline prints. But that one, the Jacqueline part and all of that is handled by a printer. So I focus on the marketing, I send the traffic, and I honestly only touch it like once or twice a year. But they come there, they buy it, and then the printer ships off the Jacqueline print. So it's always different. It's always different. But the core principles and the approaches I take are all always the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generate the traffic.
If you're asking what is the best one, is that what you're asking?
No, I was just curious because I know you and I, in our world travels and our time together, we spoke about just the different types of revenue that you were creating way back then. And it's been a minute. It's probably been a decade or so since we've had that conversation. And I was just curious if your revenue model had switched over a decade with how technology, because from when we spoke last to now, technology has exponentially changed. So I was just curious, did your revenue model change, or does the revenue model stay the same? And you've answered that by way of you're generating traffic to ultimately sell an end product, whether that, so
exactly.
You're not making money from ads, you're making money from the sale of an actual product, whether it's a physical, tangible product, whether it's an info product, a coaching product, whether it's a course, whether it's a piece of art. At the end of the day, the formula for success for you is not so much the product itself, it's how you get people in front of the product.
Exactly.
But so one of my takeaways from this excerpt of the conversation goes back to the conversation we had earlier on the podcast, which is, and since we're recording this, I would like
the other podcast.
I'd like the other podcast listeners to listen to this podcast to catch the distinction that, the long-term gain of learning this and being engaged in digital marketing and is that you learn how to do exactly what you said, capture an audience online. And so that when you want to expand your business, if you want to buy a competitor, if you want to vertically integrate and buy another company, you now have these core principles and systems that you can take and bolt onto another business or start another business and expand, what you're doing and provide more value to either your existing customers or go find new customers that could use this business and what your product is currently serving. And so I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from just this conversation is it's really, really huge and important for people to see the long-term opportunity. And I'll use an example as like one of, not but just one small piece of the compelling, the last thing I wanted to do was have a fucking podcast. Like I had no social media. I was a ghost everywhere to everyone. It just was not my thing. I don't want to be out there for the world to see. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just the way I was. But I did feel like I was compelled to serve to something that's given so much to me, business. And I know people struggle with it, and I, don't want to sound like a dick, but it kind of comes easy to me a little. That doesn't mean I win at every game. I lose. I've had losses. There's no question about it. I'm not here to pretend that it's just one success after another success. That's not how it's been. But but the other small piece to that puzzle was that we wanted to utilize a vehicle to see if we could capture online, so that in the future, there's a saying, pros get paid to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're out there and you are working towards something, and that was then you can utilize that skill set to expand later on. And this was a piece that we didn't know anything about. Online marketing was not in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to learn it and grow it. And it's worked for this
And
podcast.
cut to 1 million downloads from the man that did not want to be on social or out there.
Correct.
I love it.
So
we talked about that before too, where it's like,
I just want the listener to hear that and see it, so that they can, what's the saying? Like, listen to me now and hear me later. Like this is like, put this as a seed inside the bucket, so that, when you're looking at your business down the road, the future is coming, and whatever that looks like, this will give you opportunity. And so,
absolutely.
And I'm happy to hear any feedback or comments that you have on that in terms of your lived experience with doing it with other products or whatever.
Well, we talked about this once, that that you said you jumped in, you weren't even sure what you were going to call it, and I was like, that's the way it should be. I tell my students that when they're creating their first product, their training, their signature offer, whatever it is, I'm like, they'll be like, I don't know what to name it, and some people will actually spend years and never even get launched because they don't know what to name it, and I'm like, it doesn't matter what you name it. You call it 1, 2, 3. I mean, you can call it X. Point proven, right? The name does not matter. Like, you just jump, like, and my friends always say, like, my peers, they always say, Jeni Hott will jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down. And that's absolutely true. You don't need to know anything. It's like you said, the pros get paid to practice. That's absolutely true. When I started Time Rich, and I started, and now doing the next one, the Rich Fun Life, my first thought was like, I have never coached, and I don't necessarily consider myself to be a great teacher, right? And I am so instinct driven that I make a decision in a split second, a fraction of a second. And I recognized that I was going to have to learn how to coach. And so I still haven't, I'm just about to make it open to the public, but I was very careful, very selective with who I brought in. I opened the doors and I barely told my following that I was going to have a program. And I had 80 people sign up like that. I mean, like, jumped in so fast. And I was like, dear God, what have I done? And I closed the doors, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm learning how to coach 80 people right off the bat. And you're teaching people how to start a business with instincts that with your processes and things that are instinctive rather than broken down into systems. That's hard. That's not easy, right? And then to learn how to, like, hold space as a coach, hold space as a mentor for someone, like maybe if they're going through a breakdown moment where they're feeling like there's no way they can do this, right? These early entrepreneurs. And you, like, for us, all three of us, we are seasoned entrepreneurs. We have done it. We've been through the trenches, like, we've been through the hard stuff. But when you're looking at a young entrepreneur and they're so new that they think that their world is ending, and you're like, dude, you got 50 more of these to go in the next couple of years. Like, this is nothing. But you can't say that to them, right? They're going to break down and cry. And it happens. When they're crying, like, you have to hold that space and be like, I know this feels like this, and you've got to break it down and hold their hand. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're like, dude, it's nothing, don't worry about it, don't sweat it. Like, to you, it's like so instinctive. That was really hard for me to learn that. That was really hard for me to learn that. Now I feel like just this year, honestly, we're now like, okay, I got this. Like, now I know how to, walk someone through a breakdown where they feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't have this business. I have to quit, and I'm gonna go start something else. I'm like, that's just, translation for quitting. But now, like, I can get them laughing within a few minutes, right? And I can get them back on track, and I can get them to start focusing on the big picture versus the small, pain, whatever's we're going on. But that's hard. That's something that most people, they probably wouldn't accept payment for that if they're newer, right? You say, like, paid to practice. I could have done it, like, like, I know there's some, I won't say names, but there's some very big gurus that say, you need to go do it for free and get the testimonials, and that does not work. But I could have done it that route and just gone and practiced coaching or taken on the free clients right away. I know that that's not what's going to work. I know that that's not what's going to get the real, it's not going to throw me into the deep end of the pool when it comes to learning how to freaking coach, right? So that's what I did was I jumped in, I threw the offer together, I charged, and I charged well. And it really is what the fast track was to get me to mastering what I needed to master.
Well, that's leverage, right?
Yeah.
When you're getting paid, you got to step
When their
up.
livelihood depends on it too, that's leverage. When you're like, I need to learn this because this woman needs to feed her children, that's leverage. And you're like, I've got to step up because I've got this individual who needs to be home with his mom and needs to quit his day job. That's leverage. That's leverage.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering my question.
Dwayne, you know what? When I say that, I think about like the depth of what it means, like for you to have those $1 million, the million downloads. Like I really sit and think about the individuals that you're influencing. That's incredible. So like the people I just talked about, they've listened to your podcast. The fact that you're inspiring in them and you're enabling them to like have the life that they want, like to help them, not only that, but just to inspire them. That's just incredible. What a beautiful legacy that is.
For the record, it's you guys. I'm just the platform. But
No.
just actually asked a question that I like, and I know we talked about this, but would there be another thing that you would add, or is there something that we missed regarding driving traffic to a website?
Yeah, when you said like building following and driving traffic, a lot of people I find don't really know what to do. So is that, and I know that you are a fan of Google and driving it from like platforms.
I do love Google. I do love Google, and I like Instagram. When you're starting out and you just want to control the traffic, like when I'm starting out, I don't like, even now, I don't want a lot of people. So I stick to Facebook. Facebook is a slow-paced, very easily controlled traffic source. Remember I talked about like the different posts and things that you can use to drive traffic, different post types that you can use to grow your following, different post types that you can use to get sales. So it's a very easy one to control versus if you go over to Instagram or you go to YouTube, that's volume. That's fast. So if you're prepared for that flood, that's different. So those two are good for the volume. When it comes to Google, that's a little bit different. It's a little more unpredictable these days because Google is kind of all over the place with their results while they figure out their AI thing. They're not quite there when it comes to like what ChatGPT can do with their, yeah. I want to speak kindly of them, but they're not quite at the same level of AI results that ChatGPT or Poe or any of those give. So when it comes to Google, it's a little more unpredictable, but I still like to focus there. The potential is still really, really big, and it's free. It's free traffic, and it's very low effort. Once you put a post up, and if you've got it sorted right, then the traffic just can come forever, right? And then the way I do it is like I use pillar articles, and then I have supporting articles. The pillar articles are like the important ones, right? They're like, and like Yoast calls them cornerstone. I've just called them pillar articles forever. But a pillar article is like something that is longer, it's more resourceful, it's a list, it's something people are going to bookmark. It's a really powerful piece, right? The supporting articles are kind of like conversational or like FAQ questions or something smaller usually, and they point to the other ones. They link to it. They link to the pillar ones. So the linked ones, like you want to get the pillar articles to start posting or to start ranking higher. The supporting articles are the ones that tell Google this is where you go to find the source for the deep stuff of this topic, right? So if you're just focusing on getting those to rank versus trying to get everything to rank, it's a really beautiful system to be able to do that. And then there's a lot more like when it comes down to like, I don't worry too much about SEO before we talk about this. Like I worry more about the engagement side. I worry more about keeping people on the page. I worry more about like what's going to get them to comment, what's going to get them to share this, what's going to get them to save this, to bookmark it. I worry more about those things than I do about SERPs or like getting the SEO right. In fact, a lot of people talk still about the all these different SEO things. There's only like 3 things that I ever do. One of them is like to use an image. That again is really for the people, but I use it for the SEO, the tag that I'm going to use, the alt tag, because that's a powerful signal for Google to give them a direction of how to serve this. The title of it and the URL. That's about it. I don't worry about keywords. I don't worry about anything else. I don't even take time to do all the H1 tags. Like, every section has its own tag. I don't even worry about that. And I have found the pieces that are less SEO'd actually perform much better. As long as you give Google what they need to serve it the right way, I think the other stuff, if you over optimize it, then Google sees that as you trying to like hack them, or like, I don't know, it doesn't get smiled upon as easily. So I don't worry about any of those other things. I really focus more on what's going to get the people to stay on the page, read the entire article. The more time that they're there, the better. And I don't want them to jump back, right? Because Google does not want them jumping back, believe it or not. Google wants them to stay on your page because that's how they know that they've given them the right source for what their query was. Does that make sense? So I focus on things like that for traffic from Google more than anything else. And then when it comes like this, like, you really don't need to. If you're focusing on a podcast, then it's more about positioning, where you just in the description, you send them to where it is that you want to go, give them the resources that they need, things like that. But also reminding them to come back, reminding them we will see you again next week, reminding them that you're going to have a new podcast out every XYZ. It's the constant reminders. I call it reminder marketing. If you're constantly reminding them, every post should be, here's where you go to get to see new podcasts. Here's where you go to get more information on this. Like, if you're constantly giving them directions, even when you bring them to a website, it's like holding their hand and taking them to the next step, and then taking them to the next step, and then taking them to the next step. You never just want to leave them hanging and not knowing what to do next, right? You wouldn't do that to a friend. You're not going to take them out somewhere and then just like, okay, I'll see ya. Like, no, you want, if you're giving them value, right? Like,
Well,
that's the biggest.
what would be an example of, like, on a website where you're holding their hand to lead them to the next step? Like, what would be a real life example of that?
So a really good one is like when you go to a website and you see everybody like a ton of links or a ton of different like they have a drop down menu that has all these things, or you see like all these different articles or where they can click on, like, it's too much. You want to have a clear path. So the less you have on that and the more obvious of the directions you want to take them, the better. So like, let's say that you're selling something in health, right? You're going to kind of look at the entire website as a funnel. So maybe they come to a specific page, a pillar article, then they click on the homepage. Most of them, they will do this. They'll click on the homepage. Then if they don't see something very clear what you want them to do next, which should be like in the highest real estate, right? The top half of the website, they'll click on the about section. Even in the about section, you want to lead them to the next step. In the top real estate section there, the top right, even on the homepage, you want the next clear step. Learn more about XYZ, something that takes their hand, goes to the next step. Then they go to the next step. Maybe that's an intro page on something, or it's a resource. And then maybe the next step is to get this free training. Maybe the next step is actually a sales page, but you want to make it very clear where you want them to go next, not just have a pile of links everywhere. We talked, talk about the confused person never buys, right? The confused consumer never buys. That's a very, very good example. So if you have it, it's very clear. I want you to do this, then I want you to do this, then I want you to do this. So like if somebody is a coach, it would be really wise to just have a video of yourself that they can click right away to say hi, my name is so-and-so. I have this offer, blah, 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 blah. If you want to watch this training, put your email address in and I will send it to you. Right? So they can immediately get that. But then the next page, when they send the email in, the next page takes them to the training, or it takes them to another page that has another resource or a couple trainings. So, but you want it to be very clear what they're supposed to do next, not have them hunt for it, not have them like have too many options all over the place. It's just be boom, 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 right down the whole funnel.
So it's really like it's your call to action. Like, it's really your call to action on each page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Like I teach, one thing I teach for my students is I teach them how to turn their profiles into funnels. People don't really look at this, but I turn it into funnels so I know exactly what they do. And they'll go, like, they'll see it. And most of the time it's on mobile, right? 80% of the time, it's more than 80% now, but more than 80% of the time, somebody is online, especially on a social media platform, on their phone. So when we're building as an entrepreneur, we tend to be building on, if you're not me, I build on my phone too, but if you're building, you're usually on your desktop. And so people will build for your desktop. But if you think about it and you look at it on your phone, how are people actually saying this? So when they go to your Facebook profile or they go to your Instagram profile, the first thing they see is the intro, right? And then they see usually a call to action right away. So usually it's somebody will go to their website or go to the sales page. And that's fine if it's like Instagram, that works really well. But on Facebook or on just other ones. Like, it's not always wise. Instead, you want to tell them to follow you so that you've got them captured and you could do it again. What they see is the intro first, then they see the image, then they see the caption of the image, then they see the pinned post, and then they see your content. If you see that, that's actually, I set it up as a funnel. So it's like boom, 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 boom. And that's a lot of touch points very quickly, right? So you talk about like some people that focus on the know, like, and trust marketing. If you're focused on that, boom, you've just built know, like, and trust in 30 seconds. You've just laid the foundation for that in 30 seconds. That's amazing, right? So it's, again, it's like, it's holding their hand through every single thing. If you always get in the mind of what they're doing and what they're thinking and how they're doing it, and really think about it, then you can start to lay things in place and have those reminders everywhere. You have your name everywhere. That's a big one. You guys see this where you like sign up for a training or something, and then all of a sudden you're getting all these texts and they don't even put their name, or their like the name of their training or anything. And you're like, who was this again? Or they send an email, you see that? And like, you're like, I don't even know who this person was. You've got to call at such and such time because you signed up for it, and we'll see you. And here's the Zoom link. And you're like, who was that again? I see that all the time. That's the worst one, is like, you want your name everywhere. It should just be, and even if it's tiny little print somewhere, but it just needs to be a constant reminder, even subconsciously. The way I look at it too is like, if you go to a dinner party and you see, oh, my laryngitis is kicking in. But you go to a dinner party and the first time you meet all these people, they're all strangers and everybody's kind of like awkward and quiet, right? It's like, oh, it's nice to meet you. Where are you from? Okay. And nobody really talks, right? It's just kind of awkward state. But let's say you go to dinner, another dinner party, and they're all there again, and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's so good to see you. How's that? How's the weather and whatever? Like, it's so familiar, right? So it's like every one of those touch points is the same way. Like when it comes to the funnels or when it comes to seeing your name, you build that subconscious familiarity with yourself when they see that over and over and over again. So before you know it, you're best friends. They see 3 posts from you and they're like, oh yeah, I do want to go buy that. Like, they don't have to question it, right? And then again, if we've already had everything else set up, you've got your urgent buyer set up, you've got all the other pieces in there. You don't need the convincing. You don't need the know, like, and trust. It just happens so fast. People will buy in one post. It does. It does. That's why I say like 99% of what's taught out there and what people are doing, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. And it takes time to get your ducks lined up for that, for that level. But and I tell you this, I will say this, the majority of it's the women that are figuring this out, that I see them like learning how to sell these 6-figure offers in freaking DMs. Like, they don't have to have a sales page. They don't have to have this crazy webinar. Like, they're picking it up so fast and like learning this because they're so instinct driven that they're recognizing very quickly that they can follow their instincts and figure these things out. And it's really amazing to watch. I still see the men doing the volume and going out there and being like, hardcore, get it done kind of stuff. And just like, they are powerhouses, right? It's really interesting to watch. And I've learned this as a coach now, is I have a lot of men in my programs, which is really surprising. Most women that are business coaches in my space do not have a lot of men. It's very rare, but mine is almost equal. And I very quickly realized I have to teach them in different ways. When I'm speaking to them in our coaching calls, I have to approach it. It's the same thing with like introverts and extroverts. I have to line things up and show them things and talk to them even in a different way for them to get it faster. And it's been really interesting to watch and see how that translates into their marketing. The different approaches they have is much more direct, where the women want to be, I wouldn't say softer, but they're, like I said, they're more instinct driven, where the men are more action driven, right? So it's been really interesting to watch that and see that dynamic shifting as more and more women get into this space. It's been really fascinating.
Amazing. We just went longer on our second podcast than most people do on a regular podcast.
I like that we hijacked your podcast, Wayne.
There you go, everybody. There's an extra 40 minutes of extra content. And if you wonder what we do in our spare time with our friends, this is the kind of conversations we have. So, that's awesome. Thank you so much, love.
Bye. Thank you. We're not Dwayne Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate you being with us. If you found value in the show and know a friend or a coworker who could benefit from the conversation, Please share the link via text or on social media. Remember, each share creates a ripple effect of knowledge and inspiration. We'll see you next week.
Series. The primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified professional or specialist before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.